hear that? That's the sound of heaven. What can I say about this beautiful little console that not only defined my teenage years, but I can proudly say was the first console I could buy my own games for. The PS4 not only did put PlayStation back on top, but it also saved them from the original legacy that the PS3 set out in its early years. And now, on the 10th anniversary, I want to go through this amazing machine's legacy and how the games released on it defined a generation.
It's a thrill to be with you here today. The stakes are high for what we're going to show you.
After the PS2, Sony were on the top of the world. The PS2 was a juggernaut. It became the best-selling console of all time, and it absolutely dwarfed the competition. If you became the best-selling console of all time, you would have an ego of the size of a Dubai skyscraper. Sony became very arrogant with the PS3. And it seems it has not worn off even today. And we're expecting consumers to abandon all other consoles and come straight to the PS3. I was too young to actually know what actual money was. So, I remember in 2007 asking my mom and dad to buy me a PS3. When we went to the store, they saw the price, laughed, and told me once I have good grades, they will buy me one. I got a PS3 in 2011, and it wasn't for my good grades, but for my birthday. I kinda started getting the notion about pricing at the time, and understood that back in 2007, the PS3 was way too expensive. And I was not the only one. In its early years, the PS3 was stacked with so much needless shit that people did not want to buy it. Motherfucker was priced at $600, which for 2006 money is expensive as shit. But after getting their asses kicked by the competition, Sony wanted to win back the consumer's trust. The first thing they did was to remove all the needless stuff from the console, which included USB ports, card slots, and sadly the PS2 backwards compatibility. Which sucked, but it was a necessary step to compete with Microsoft. In the beginning of that generation, Microsoft was pretty aggressive with the competition against Sony, releasing hit after hit. All that peaked with Halo 3. After that, Sony began to be more aggressive with the push for the PS3. They kicked 2008 off hard with the release of Metal Gear Solid 4, and after that in 2009, they released Uncharted 2, which was the golden standard for third-person shooters at the time. And they also released Infamous and my favorite HD Ratchet & Clank game, A Crack in Time. And the hits kept coming, and coming, and coming. The final years of the PS3's lifespan were filled with amazing titles, but the big showstopper was my favorite game of all time, aka The Last of Us. And keep in mind, this was released 2 days after Sony's announcement for the PS4. People were buying PS3s when the PS4 was announced. Speaking of the announcement, I still remember it like it was yesterday. But before we talk about that, let's head over to Xbox's side.
Experience. TV. TV and movies. TV. Xbox. Watch TV. 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 TV.
Oh man, the internet was on fire that day. I mean, what the fuck? In the late years of the 360's lifespan, Microsoft invested heavily in the Kinect and targeted a more mainstream audience, while leaving its core audience behind. I mean, while in 2013, we got Ni no Kuni, Sly Cooper, Thieves in Time, Ratchet & Clank Into the Nexus, God of War Ascension, Beyond Two Souls, Kingdom Hearts 1.5, Gran Turismo 6, The Last of Us, Wonder Okay, maybe not that one, but you get my point. Sony released an insane amount of games for the PS3 in its twilight year, and barely, just barely outsold the 360 right at the end. Sony did not want to make the same mistake they did with the launch of the PS3. The arrogance of the launch of the PS3 made a permanent stain on Sony's portfolio. So, with that out of the way, let's head over to E3 2013. God, I still remember the massacre that was that E3. Xbox were first, and their reputation was going to shit with the announcement of the features of the Xbox One back in May 2013. But don't worry, they promised that on E3, the only thing they will talk about is games. They sure did. I mean, it's not all bad, but it just felt underwhelming. Especially the moment Xbox was fucked with the release was with these little beauties. To say that they shot themselves in the foot would be a massive understatement.
And fortunately, we have a product for people who aren't able to get some form of connectivity. It's called Xbox 360.
Right. So stick with 360. That's your message. If you don't,
Well,
if you don't like it.
if you have zero access to the internet, that is an offline device. I mean,
This is exactly what Sony needed. I think we all knew who the winner was even before the release of the consoles. Not only did they have games, but the way they were announced, the whole structure of the show, everything structured to near perfection. Just thinking about it makes me excited for games that I've already played. Now, with all that information, let's examine the main releases throughout the years and how Sony became a gaming giant once again. The launch year of the PS4 did not show a lot, but it did not need to. We got the most important games, so we're good. The main highlight from Sony was Killzone Shadowfall. It was really mad. I have played all the Killzone games, and this game was just a showcase for the PS4's capabilities. It's an interesting showcase, but the substance was just not there. We got the most important game of 2013 though, aka Knack. Knack is really weird. It was developed by Japan Studios and directed by Mark Cerny, the first person outside of Japan to design a PlayStation console. But that was not important, because much better things were just on the horizon. And this is where I come into the picture. I got my PS4 for Christmas 2014, and I was ecstatic to play it. In 2014, despite some first-party games being released, the main focus was on the third-party games. Sony released The Last of Us Remastered, which was a much-needed re-release of the game, because getting such an amazing game stuck on the PS3 is fate worse than that. The remaster was amazing, and to this day is the best version of the game. I know what I said. The main release for the beginning of the year was Watch Dogs. Watch Dogs is so stupid. It's trying to be an edgy hacker game that was praised for its graphics before release, and the idea that it was a GTA game with hacking. But it did not meet the release expectations from fans. For one, it was heavily downgraded from the E3 reveal. The game was getting review bombed and hated left and right. And that was because it was promised to be the first next-gen game. It also released on the PS3, Xbox 360, and the Wii U. Yeah, things were not looking good for this game, but for now, let's proceed forward. In the summer, the big release was Infamous Second Son. Oh, Infamous, my little baby. I absolutely love this series, and to this day, I hope Sony will put a remaster of this game for the current gen consoles. I mean, for fuck's sake, Sony, just do it! Do it! I know Sucker Punch is busy with Ghost of Tsushima, but there's some amazing games just sitting there! Infamous Second Son was continuing the trend of showing the PS4's capabilities. I actually love the idea of using the PS4 controller as a spray can, and I would say that this is the first must-play next-gen game. It holds up tremendously, and I urge you to give it a try. A couple weeks later, after Infamous release, the PS Store got a small demo called PT. Is she gone? PT, or Playable Teaser, was a demo for Silent Hills directed by Hideo Kojima of Metal Gear fame and Guillermo del Toro from all of these. Keep this demo in mind, it will be important later. After that, in September, we got another big third-party release from Bungie? Wait, what? You mean Halo Bungie? Destiny? Oh boy, this is gonna be the biggest game of the year! Holy shit, it looks amazing! Oh... Damn it. Bobby, why did you put your sleazy hands on this game? Destiny went through quite a production hell. For one, it looks very different from what was promised. Many characters' roles were changed and the game just felt unfinished, which it was. Of course, Bobby saw dollar signs and decided to make Bungie split the game's story and resell it in the form of DLC, which is why the base game feels so unfinished. It's like 20% of the game, but that didn't matter for them, because Destiny went on to become a massive success, going on to sell more than 10 million copies in its first month alone. And if you wanted to play the most content-complete version of the game, the right place was on the PS4. Last generation, Activision had a deal with Sony for all their games to have exclusive content on PlayStation, be it weapons, expansions, add-ons, etc. And that made the PS4 the definitive place to play third-party games on console. Speaking of which, in October 2014, there was a lot of games being released, be it from third or first party. The main game I wanted was Middle-earth Shadow of Mordor. I am a massive Tolkien fan, and the idea of a Batman-style game based in Mordor, sign me the fuck up, dude! And it absolutely smashed all of the expectations I had for it, making it my personal game of the year. On the first party side, we have Drive Club. Ah yes, the smaller brother to Gran Turismo. For its time, it absolutely holds up. All the dynamic wear effects, the feel of the driving just made it look and feel great. Unfortunately, it never reached the status of the Gran Turismo series, and is something of a cult classic in the racing games community. The servers were shut down years ago, and it's a shame that this game did not get the recognition it deserved. Okay, I'll go back to sleep now. Just waking me up in 15 minutes to finish the video. I won't be long, I promise.